Robert Cardoza, and you're watching On the Street. This is the intersection of business and politics. This is where we give you the honest-to-God truth about what's going on with regard to legislation and what's in the news that affects your business. Today's going to be an interesting day. We have no interviews today because we wanted to talk about last year and this year, or this new year coming up. We hope to do that. We're going to talk about a lot of what's in the news today. A lot of that's going to be affecting businesses, whether you be an existing business or a startup business. We're going to talk about new legislation that's being proposed, and obviously I'm talking about the fiscal cliff. It's just being proposed. Nobody's accepting anything right now, but we'll talk about that. And we're going to talk about the good and the bad, as we always do, and then down the line we'll have those emails, and we're looking forward to those. But right now, let's talk about what's in the news. And the first thing that's in the news is the United States Post Office. You know what? When you make that long trek down to the post office this year to mail your cards, or you've probably already done that, maybe your packages, take a good look around you, because next year that may not be around. Congress has done the same thing with the United States Post Office that it has done with the fiscal cliff. It's just sort of kicked the can down the road. Now, last year, the United States Post Office lost $20 billion. And of course, you and I, the taxpayers, had to bail out the United States Postal Service and make up that difference. Well, Congress hasn't done anything with regard to their funding and making the differences go and getting rid of some of these grandfathered benefits that are killing the post office. So you may be very well seeing the United Parcel Service and FedEx pick up that slack and start taking envelopes as well as packages. So just keep the eye open and know that things are going to be different next year. That's going to also make a difference for your business. Now, think about this. We're no longer going to be talking about that 44-cent postage stamp. If it goes to UPS and goes to FedEx, the amount of postage it's going to cost you as a business is probably going to rise, and you need to be prepared for that, and you don't want to lose track of that. So their costs are going to go up. A few years ago, I actually did an analysis in my own business about how much savings I could get by not using the United States Postal Service the way that I used to, by using the internet, by using emails. Now, what I figured out from my business was I was saving somewhere around $10,000 a year by utilizing email as opposed to using the United States mail. Well, you know what? You're going to have to start trying to figure out a way to do that. Maybe electronically send out your statements like a lot of companies are doing now. But you're going to have to figure out some way to save, because I don't think the United States Postal Service is going to be there the way it is today. Now, they're talking about eliminating Saturday mail delivery. They might still deliver packages on Saturdays, but next year, most all of that is going to change. Now, let's talk about Walmart for just a minute. Walmart is being accused of corruption in Mexico. Now, here's the deal. I don't know how many people out there that are watching the show do business on an international basis or do business in Mexico. But you know what? Corruption is not a four-letter word in Mexico. Mexico doesn't really care at all. It's the New York Times that brought this thing about. And it's because Walmart is kind of greasing the skids for the higher-ups in Mexico to try and get a lot of the red tape out of the way that's purposely put there for this purpose. Corruption, if you want to call it that, is just a way of doing business in Mexico. That's how they do it. Let's talk about Google for a minute. You know, Google is being subject right now to antitrust suits, both in the United States and in Europe. Well, the United States government has dropped it, but Europe, because financially strapped, are going right after that antitrust suit against Google. They're trying to get the extra money. It seems interesting that the United States, who is more adept at protecting antitrust than what Europe has ever been, has decided it wasn't worth pursuing. It's not honest, it's not real, it's not there. You got to be thinking about those kind of things. What else is in the news? Something we told you 3 weeks ago was in the news. Today, John Kerry becomes the nominee for Secretary of State. Is that good news for us? Yeah, it is. The other good news about that is the person he's replacing, Hillary Clinton, the minute he takes the oath of office for Secretary of State, and it's a shoo-in, it's going to happen, then Hillary Clinton starts working on her nominee for President of the United States in 2016. She's already made little nuanced announcements saying that that's what's going to happen. You got to know that that's what's going to happen. You know, you never know, though, that come 2016, when she wants to pick a running mate, who better than who's been the Secretary of State for the last 4 years. That would make an awful lot of sense. So you could wind up with a Hillary Clinton for president and a John Kerry for vice president, wind up with a Chris Christie running on the conservative side for that, maybe a Bobby Jindal, maybe someone else going in there, but that's what you want to remember. Now, you're watching On the Street. This is the intersection of business and politics. This is where we just tell you exactly like it is. Coming up, we're going to talk about new legislation. You don't want to miss these things. Again, you're watching On the Street, the intersection of business and politics. I'm Robert Cardoza.